Welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Hello and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. We're going to have an exciting show. We're going to be speaking with Chris Hardy live from France about the genetic engineering of the Anunnaki gods. But Just Energy Radio is brought to you by soulhealer.com that provides you with information about the products and services I offer, including medical intuition evaluations, psychic reading, and energy healing. And so stop by the website, and see what services I offer. So if there are things going on in your life, problem in your relationship, problem in your career, you have a health concern, drop me a line, give me a call, send me an email, and we'll set up a time and we can get to the root of your issues. And we can do that in person, over the phone, or via Skype. The show is also brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics, www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com, where you can jumpstart your intuition with our free 50-page Jumpstart Your Intuition Guide. You can get that at the website, www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. A couple of other little announcements. Let's see. Next weekend in spooky Jefferson, Texas, is the next History Haunts and Legends Conference. It'll be Saturday, April 12th. I will be there speaking about genetic engineering in antiquity. Hey, we're going to be talking about that now. What if that'll be interesting? And then I will be in Pensacola, Florida, talking about myth is history. And then at the Tyler Paranormal Conference in Tyler, Texas. And I'll be talking. About something. I'm not really sure yet, but something very important. But I will be at all of these events doing session work with people. So if you want to stop by, buy a book, have a reading, it's all good. Don't forget soulhealer.com, Institute of Applied Energetics, www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. So let me tell you a little bit about Chris and get her on the air. Cognitive and systems scientist, PhD in psychological anthropology, and ex-researcher at Princeton's Psychophysical Research Laboratory, Chris H. Hardy has spent the last 2 decades investigating non-local consciousness and thought-provoking mind potentials. Author of more than 50 papers and about 15 books, she is a member of several scientific societies based in the U.S. exploring systems theory, chaos theory, parapsychology, and consciousness studies. And she is the author of DNA of the Gods, the Anunnaki's Creation of Eve, and the Ancient Battle of Humanity. So please welcome to Just Energy Radio, Dr. Chris Hardy. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm extremely in a great expectation with our discussion tonight because I know you are also a healer. And when we talk about the Sumerian civilization, we are talking about an integral science, and a science that is a science mixing at the same time the knowledge of spirituality and consciousness and at the same time, a technological, very advanced scientific and technological knowledge. So it's going to be very exciting, of course.
Well, and I have I wrote a book about ancient mythology. And,
Sorry?
So we're going to have a lot to talk about. How's that? But Chris, what I want to know, your background, you come out of cognitive science and, non-local consciousness and mind potential. What got you interested in studying ancient Sumerian texts and writing about genetic manipulation in antiquity?
Well, it has been a long path of development. I started by, to tell you the truth, I started by being totally involved in my own spiritual path on the exploring meditation on the state of consciousness, on the mental potentials. But at the same time, I was doing my studies in sociology and then cultural anthropology. And I was waiting for years the moment I could be free and having my Bachelor of Art on the rush to India to try to understand and explore more of the realm of consciousness. And so, but I was already meditating since 3 years before I left. And so it was a very, very extremely positive and creative time. Well, I learned exactly what I was searching, I was finding. So basically, I had about 10 years of travels everywhere in Asia, in India, I said it, and also Africa, deep Africa, Middle East, and I was shutting the door strongly on what I had been taught about the way to do ethnological work, From my point of view, from my side, I had everything to learn from the shamans, from the ascetics, from the yogi, and that's how I went. And it's true that I was going from one community to the next, but staying months and months at a time with some masters, some people. And so I was learning a lot of things. At the same time, I did not get attached to a specific path. I went through shamanism in deep Africa, in South America, I said Sufism, and then in the Middle East, and Hinduism, and Tibetan religion, and then a little more to the east. So after 10 years, I suddenly had a lot of very strong dreams that are coming, at the end of a cycle. I have those dreams that are at the same time closing the previous cycle and opening the next one. And basically those dreams were telling me that now I was going to get fully into science and going to meet a lot of people. And it's just, I had 3 dreams like this. And it was incredible in the matter of a month. I mean, those dreams were like in 2 or 3 months. And then suddenly, 1 month later, the last one, I was offered to do a book of interviews of the leading scientist of the new paradigm in France. And then I kept going and went to America and interviewed some few other scientists. And then I decided to do a doctoral degree in parapsychology, and everything went like opening so quickly. It was incredible, all the contact and everything. And then I started. I went to America. I studied I worked in this PRL labs in Princeton. And then I came back to France. I passed my doctoral thesis. And then I got into elaborating a theory of non-local consciousness. So all this, then it was a long time on that. And I don't know how exactly but it was again a new cycle, and it's true that I had a dream that I recount in my book. I had a dream where I was seeing an eagle, Hormused eagle, and it had a name, Hormused, on it. I could not miss it. And it was on top of a mountain, like a peak, an antenna peak, and it was calling me to meditate there, and it was a gigantic eagle. I climbed and I meditated and this eagle was towering, Hormused eagle was towering over me. And at that time I knew the Mazdaism, and I knew Hormus, and I knew Ahura Mazda, the great god of the Persian religion, but I had no idea that Ahura Mazda was in fact known in Sumer as Marduk. So that was on Ra in Egypt. So that's it. And I started reading Psyche, and then I was totally amazed and glued to what I was discovering, and it's like everything was suddenly opening, something was opening. It was absolutely fascinating for me.
Mm-hmm. So
that's what brought me there.
Well, that's quite the interesting path that you've taken to get from one place to the next.
Yeah. Well, jumping from one cycle to the next.
Mm-hmm. So there are many people who claim that the writings of the Sumerians and other early cultures are just archetypes, or then there are the people that say that these early writings are just their flights of fantasy and there really isn't any historical significance to these early documents. What do you think about, either what they say or what you have found based on your studies?
At first, before I got totally involved in the Sumerian tablets, I had heard that there were some, what I called at the time, I called them myths, and I had heard that some of the myths that we find in the book of Genesis were in some other civilization. Like, for example, we have a lot of great gods that are born specifically on the 24th of December, and their mother was a virgin. The birth was kind of supernatural. And I knew that we had. There were some of the myths that from Genesis were also in the Sumerian civilization, but I had no idea before I really got involved in the tablets. I had no idea that so many parallels could be drawn between the Genesis book and the Sumerian tablets. It's hallucinating to see so many similarities, and even in the name, like for example, in Genesis you have Adam, in the Sumerian tablets it's Adamu. You have the same description of what happened in the Eden Garden. You have the creation. You have the fact that the first couple is expelled from Eden, and for example, Eden is in fact a Sumerian term. It's a name. It's Edin in Sumerian, and Edin is Sumer. It's the Mesopotamia, the land in between the two rivers in Mesopotamia. I mean the Tigris and the Erectus, and this is what is called Edin. And then you have in Genesis you have Eden, and in Genesis you have marks that Adam and Eve were taken to the Garden of Eden in the east. And so it means it's the east of Eden, which would not mean anything if it was just a garden. In the east of what? But when you understand that Eden is the whole of Mesopotamia, the whole of Sumer, then you understand that basically from the Persian Gulf to what is now Turkey, you understand that then it was in the east of Sumer, and in fact it was in the tablets, it's near the town of Eridu, the city of Enki. So there were so many correspondences. And also, you know, apart from the Garden of Eden, you have, for example, a historian named Berosus, and he was a historian in Babylon. And he himself was talking about the deluge, on the story of Noah, even if the name was slightly different. The story was exactly the same, that he was given a secret how to build a boat so that he could be saved and his family, and with animals and plants, etc. And also in Berosus, you have 3rd century BCE, you have the story of the Tower of Babel, saying that the Tower of Babel was destroyed by command of God, and that the command was also to create a great number of languages, so that the people would not be able to communicate so easily. And so you have so many, and also the king list. I mean, you have so many historical grounds that highlight now what is written in the book in Genesis in a different way, because you have to see and to remark that we have much more details in the Sumerian tablets than we have in Genesis, because we have an enormous amount of tablets, and they are in 6 or 7 different languages, and we have the same text that some of them dating 3,500 BCE, so 5,000 more than 5,000 years ago, and in those tablets, they have been copied from Sumerian to Akkadian to Assyrian to in different languages, and so. And we have also a similar thing with the rosette stone, you know, in Egypt, that was in different languages, and allowed Champollion to translate the hieroglyph. And in fact, we have the same thing we have some tablets with 3 different languages. One is Sumerian, one is Akkadian, the other one is Greek. And so we were able to kind of have guidelines for the translation.
Well, when people ask me a similar, some of what you're talking about the differences between the Bible and the Sumerian text or any of the ancient texts, I joke. I'm kind of a joker, and I joke around and say, well, the people who wrote Genesis had a big bucket of whiteout because you can't have multiple gods in the Bible because there's only one God, and so if you take out all of the stories, basically, because they're all of more than one God, you don't really have much left. You end up with like Tablet 5 of the Enlil Elish, and pretty much that's it. Pretty much. Not even that whole thing. You just end up with a very finite piece of the story.
Yes. Well, this is the main differences between the scriptures and also, first of all, there are the scriptures, like the book of Genesis, and then there is the problem of the interpretation, the exegesis of the scripture at one time in history or one culture in the world, and then you have the comparison between the real text itself and on the Sumerian tablet. What happened to me is that once I had understood the story in the Sumerian civilization kind of worldview, I was able to decipher and to unveil a lot of details that are indeed in the scriptures, but we don't see them because we have like blinkers. We have we have this presupposed idea that this is like this or not like that. I take an example. Maybe I should first of all tell you a little about exactly how the creation of humanity is described in the tablets. So basically, you have the Anunnaki are the translation means those who came down from heaven to earth. And they arrive on Earth and in a search of gold because their atmosphere was dwindling. So basically, they find gold and they start coming. They came from a nomad planet, and all these are. It's getting more and more solid ground now because the latest discovery about nomad planet is that not only they exist, but they are practically the majority of planets that are not attached to a solar system, that they are wandering through the cosmos. And if they get too near to a solar system, then they will be attracted by it. So basically, they start mining the gold, and Enki is the first one to come from the planet, nomad planet Nibiru, and he starts looking for gold, of course, because they have to repair their own ozone layer, and he finds some gold mines in the tip of South Africa, and start the gold mining there. And the Anunnaki are coming each time their planet is in the perigee and approaching Earth. And so it's every 3,600 years. And then basically there is a revolt of the Anunnaki in the gold mines, and they refuse to make such a hard work. And And then they get an assembly of the gods and decide that they are going to create a hybrid race. But it seems like for them it was very important to have a being, a hominid, a being who had a soul. It was a religious, excuse me. It was a religious rule that they could not make some genetic engineering from scratch. They had to have a being from the planet, an indigenous being who had a soul, and then they would mix their own DNA with that of this hominid. And Enki, who has roamed around the planet, is suddenly saying, yes, but it exists. This hominid bipedal being exists already, and thus we will bind our godly mold on this being. The situation is that so they will create by genetic manipulation a hybrid between the genome of the Anunnaki and the genome of this hominid. The situation is in the oven. God and man shall be bound to a unity brought together. And in the tablets, everything is very sound in terms of biology. You follow me, Rita?
So far, so good.
Okay. So basically, they call it essence of life or mold, and also they use the term image, which is a term that we will find after in Genesis. They created the Elohim, plural, created man at their own image and resemblance. So we have this already in the tablets, and so basically they create this hybrid, and first they create man, Adamu. So the term is very near, as I said, and then so basically you have Enki and Ninmah. Ninmah, his half sister, is the one to be the head scientist in terms of life science, and she was already on the earlier planet, and now she's the one in charge of the assembly of the god to make the genetic manipulation, the genetic engineering of this new hybrid race. But that's where you have a big fight between the two brothers. On the one side, you have Enki and Ninmah willing to give to this new humanity all the gift of intelligence, of knowledge, the capacity to be highly developed intellectually, and skilled scientists and engineers, and they want to give to this humanity all the gift of their own culture. And on the other side, you have Enlil with the legal heir of the king Anu of Nibiru, of the planet Nibiru, and is now becoming in charge of Earth, and he himself and all his followers in the assembly of the gods wanted only to have a worker, a primitive worker who could work in the mines and serve them. So all the time, during ages and ages, you are going to see this struggle and fight between, on the one hand, Enlil, who does not want to give knowledge to humanity and power and civilization, and want to keep them as a slave or as primitive worker, as primitive as possible. And on the other side, you have at the same time Ninma and Enki, and the son of Enki with Ningishzida, but also known as Hermes in Greece, and Thoth in Egypt. And he will be they will be the three creator gods. Excuse me. And they will constantly upgrade the genome of the new humanity until they reach a great men that are going to be initiated. But already at the time of Adam and Eve had paranormal power. Do you know that? She had precognition power. It's even in the Bible. She had, in the book of Enoch, Eve was able to know at one point that her son had been killed by Cain. Abel had been killed by Cain. You know, she knew that, and she rushed, and she found Cain dead. So it's very interesting, but we don't have so many psi capacities. I find within the family of the royal family of the Anunnaki. They don't seem to have. They have only some vision, but it's kind of very rare. They don't have telepathy. They are not able to sense the feeling of the other person in front of them, even in between the royal family, I find. So what happens then is that Enlil wants to be as the absolute despot. He wants to be always ascertain in his role of commander of Earth, and now he wants to see the two first Earthlings that has been created. So I get back a little to say that first they created Adamu, and then immediately they created 7 clones of Adamu to work in the gold mines. Then Ninma created the woman Tiamat, who is called Eve in the book, and immediately after she created 7 clones of Tiamat, and then Enlil wanted absolutely to have them in Sumer. So now they are taken from the Eastern Africa, not the land of the mind, which was the tip of South Africa, but Eastern Africa, where Ninma had a laboratory, and it was Zimbabwe, and they are taken to Sumer, and very near to the property of Enki, in the east of Edin, as I said. And that's where there is a second, a new genetic manipulation, which is orchestrated by Ninma, Enki, because they all had their own temple and city, both in Sumer and in South Africa, and also Hermes. And now they are going to do this upgrading, this genetic upgrading on the adolescent bodies of both Tiamat and Adamu. And that's where they get to self-consciousness and self-awareness, and at the same time they get the ability to mate and to reproduce, which they did not have before. At that point, still in the Sumerian tablets, Enlil realized that this upgrading, this new upgrading has been done behind his back, without his knowledge, and he gets into a furor when he learns and when he sees that now Adamu and Tiamat have become very aware or very totally more independent from him, and they have taken the fruit of the tree of knowledge that existed also already on Nibiru. The king Anu had a tree of knowledge and a tree of immortality, and then his legal heir Enlil is going to have the two trees also in the property that is creating to receive Tiamat and Adamu. And he had given the order that they don't touch the tree. That's where we have, in my opinion, a double bind, a very, very strong double bind that is extremely easily seen in the Genesis text itself, because basically you have in the Genesis text. Now I shift to Genesis. You have the deity, the lonely deity, the sole deity of the book and this deity, and yet you have the plural Elohim, and you have this deity ordering Adam and Eve not to eat of one tree only, not to eat the fruit of the tree of knowing. And the book says knowing good and evil. And in fact, in the Sumerian civilization, whether it was on the home planet Nibiru, where you had King Anu having two trees, the tree of knowing, but knowing period, and the tree of immortality. And you have a fantastic depiction that I have in my book where you see that those two trees with Anu in the middle on a little mountain on his throne. And you have those two trees, one is feminine, one is more masculine. And each has a human head, and each one is offering gift to Anu, and one is offering, of course, the drink of immortality, and the other one is offering the tree of a symbolic tree of knowing, branches, because the tree of knowing is symbolized everywhere, and it means also the DNA. It's the pair, the pair of bases in the DNA, and also you have a lot of representation of caduceus, kind of two entwined snakes, representing the DNA double helix. You have this everywhere in the Sumerian civilization, and so basically. In this garden of Anu, the king Anu on Nibiru, those two trees had human heads. They are both offerings their own, essence to Anu. But at the bottom of the throne of Anu, you have two tiny snakes looking toward each tree, and this snake is like a little fountain. And there is a flow of water flowing towards the roots of the trees, both of them. So it's a magnificent depiction that shows that an incredible synergy between the two trees. They are divine beings, they are conscious divine beings, and they both feed to Anu of their own essence, and Anu is feeding them with the water of life also. So it's like an incredible synergy, and you have to go to shamanism to find the concept of trees or plants that have a consciousness, that are conscious being, like ayahuasca, like peyote. They are called by their name, and they are conscious beings for the shamans of South America.
So we have actually a number of questions. Oh, go ahead.
Yes. So when you have those two trees now in the garden created by Enlil, the son of Anu, the legal heir of Anu, and when he has now two trees that he has planted in his own garden that he created to receive Adamu and Tiamat. Okay, and those two trees are the object of a total interdiction to even approach them, and of course even more to eat the fruit. So basically now I shift back to the text of the Genesis, and you have the deity. You have a snake that appears from nowhere, as Sitchin remarked, and we don't know why there would be such an incredibly powerful entity on the negative and able to be within a garden where the deity the creator would have installed and received his created man and woman. And this is very strange that this in the book that this entity exists. So in Sumer, this is how you can decode it. It's making a kind of va-et-vient, going on and coming back all the time between the text. And in Sumer, Enki as his symbol is the snake. And that's where the Caduceus symbol is starting also. And he's called the serpent, but in a very positive way, as you have it in Gnosticism, where the serpent is the keeper of knowledge, is initiate, is the guardian of secret knowledge. And Enki is the master, the teacher of secret knowledge. He's the initiate. And so you have this snake symbolism. And so when you have the one depiction we have of the events in the Garden of Eden, in the Eden, is you see Tiamat with makeshift.
It's just gonna be you and me, and we're gonna be hanging out, talking for a while. But I think it's interesting, and one of the things that I find fascinating is that when you do read this mythology, so many people say that it's just, archetypes or the flights of fantasy, and there she is back, and I didn't even get to say anything. Dang. Chris, are you there?
Please, take the lead, Rita. Take the lead.
Well, I was kind of filling in air, and so I was going to blab for a while, but you came back right away. But
okay, that's good. Yes, I'm sorry for the interruption. I don't know what happened.
There? I don't. It happens. So we've been getting a bunch of questions from in the chat room, and I'd like to maybe hit a few of them. This one is from Neutron, and it kind of fits in with what you've been talking about. And so, I'm only going to do part of it because it's the part that fits in, but he's asking about the creation of the Nephilim. And so what do you think about that? I have a definite opinion about the Nephilim, but do you think that the Nephilim were a creation of the Anunnaki? And do you think that, I'll read the whole question, And I guess basically his question is kind of moving into the whole concept of the sons of gods and the daughters of men. And so maybe you can talk about those two topics, the Nephilim and then the sons of God and the daughters of men, and how that all fits
the Sumerian
into this
tablets, I know that the Nephilim are viewed quite differently between different groups of people. I mean, there are some people that put the Nephilim as being definitely reptilians. And but at the same time, in the Sumerian lore, and we see that the Nephilims are, in fact, are called in Sumerian the Igigi, Igigi, and Igigi means they are the astronaut. It means in Sumerian exactly those who observe and orbit, and they were the people, 300, in fact, their number is given in the tablets, 300 people on planet Mars in a space station, taking care of the space station on Mars. And what happened, and it seems like they also had an orbiting station. And during the deluge, we will see the Anunnaki orbiting around Earth, and some of them on Mars, and some of them on the orbiting station, some of them on their own birds and planes and whatever, on the spacecraft. And so the Igigi were, as I said, the astronaut in the space station. And at one point, they revolted also, and believe it or not, they revolted because they did not have any kind of possibility to be received on planet Earth whenever they were coming to Earth for. They did not have vacation. They did not have homes and houses and properties on Earth. And more than that, even worse, they did not have spouses. So basically, with the Anunnaki, you see a human, very definitely human psyche. They had all kind of flaws in their character. They were getting all the time in great anger, and they were jealous, and they were lying, and they had all kind of violent deeds. And at the same time, very beautiful qualities, also artistic, and they were all writing, creative, and they had a very rich affective life. So basically, you have a family of royals, which are the two sons and the daughter of Anu. Enki, Enlil, and Ninmah, the woman scientist. And they have, after their children, the other brother, etc., all the family, and each one of the royals have not only a spouse, but a concubine plurals, and all kind of affairs on the side, with men, with women, with granddaughter, it's like they are immortal, they don't age, so they are always in very useful and all that. And then, compared to that, you had the workers in the mine working like slaves, and they were Anunnaki, and you have the Igigi, the astronauts that have no wife, no property, nothing, and so basically they revolt also. So when they revolt, there is also one person that was always the one who is thought is the target in all the wars. It's the son, the firstborn of Enki is called Marduk. So Marduk, as I said, is the god Ra in Egypt. But Marduk in Sumer is always the one who is exiled. They want him out. He's doing incredible things. He's doing solving the water problem for the whole of Sumer. And nevertheless, they want him out. They break down his temple, everything. And so Marduk has no wife either, and is falling madly in love with a hybrid whose mother was an Anunnaki goddess, and whose father was the high priest in a city somewhere. And he's madly in love with her, and he's a very interesting character. And he asks a permission to his parents and all the Anunnaki to marry her. And finally, the parents give the permission that he marry her. So he's the first one to marry not exactly an earthling, but half earthling, half Anunnaki. Hello? You still there, Rita?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And so basically he's starting a wave, because Marduk was also the head of the director of the space station, and so the head of all the Igigi. And so what's happening is that all the Igigi want to do like Marduk. Now they want to have their own spouse. And they use a great feast where everybody is invited, and they are going to come down to Earth for a certain while, because the king Anu and his wife are coming down to Earth for a visit at one of the moment where the planet is approaching Earth every 3,600 years. So basically, all the Igigi, which for Sitchin, they are the Nephilim, all the Igigi decide that they are going to use the occasion of this great feast to find women, to find their spouse. And in fact, what's happening is that there are a lot now, humanity has multiplied, and of course there are very beautiful women, earthling, and they all, each one of them, the 300, choose a wife among the earthling. And that's how they kind of intermingle with the earthling woman.
But were there offspring from those relations?
The first one, yes, of course, they were also the many intercourses that Enki had with all the earthlings that were the first ones that were created, and also very early on. It's like not only they mix their own DNA, Anunnaki DNA, with the DNA of the Homo Erectus, and push him to the Homo sapiens. But this is at the same date, given the dates on the Sumerian tablets, year of Anu. And when you translate it into our own historical time, we have the same time where we see the Homo erectus starting to mutate to become a Homo sapiens. I mean, the Homo erectus was on Earth since 1.9 million years without moving, without mutating. And suddenly, something like 400,000 years ago, it slowly started to mutate. And then around 200,000, 150,000 years ago, it was fully Homo sapiens. Its mutation was ending. And this corresponds to the dates. I mean, the 200,000 correspond to the date given in the Sumerian tablets for this mutation. This is very interesting. And we know that Enki and Ninmah did several attempts, unsuccessful attempts at producing this new Lulu race, I mean the hybrid race. So then, not only you have the genetic engineering, but also Ninmah, each time she's creating a new earthling, a new genome, she's adding more and more of their own Anunnaki genome, which means that along the generation up to Noah, you have more and more genetic material from the Anunnaki and less from the hominid. And also, if you remember, the earthling were carried by Anunnaki goddesses until their birth and then raised by them. So basically, on top of that, of this genetic engineering, we see all the time Enki, as soon as a woman is in the age of as a puberty, having intercourse with the earthling woman, and then this intercourse will produce children, and these children will have even more Anunnaki material in their genome. You see, and this is always the case. So, yes, Enki was the one to predate the, not intermarriage, because he did not marry, but the intercourse with earthling women, yes.
Okay. So, so I'm going to kind of ask the question again. So when the Igigi came down and, interacted with the early, so I don't know if they would still be the Homo erectus or if they would be the early Lulu, were they able to produce offspring from that union or, even hybrid offspring? Or was that still prior to enough engineering happening that, Oh,
no. Very early on, at the time that Adamu is created, and he is the first one, the first leap, the first creation, at that time, he's already fully what they call in the Sumerian tablet a civilized man, and that's what they were searching to achieve. It's a man who was a man or a woman, a human who was able to learn and to become civilized in terms of science, in terms of also the refinement of the affect, the bonding, the family ties, the engineering, the technology. So that's what happened. That's what happened immediately with Adamu. And then with each new generation, you have a leap in consciousness, and you have more and more wise. For example, Enoch, the biblical Enoch, is the sixth generation after Adam. Both in the Genesis book, in the book, and both in the tablets, and he's called Enkime in the tablets, and he's taught astronomy, mathematics. We know that the books of Enoch, he wrote so many books, and he was extremely culture, So you see that from the beginning, but something terrible happened at one point.
And actually, Chris, we need to take a break right now. It's the top of the hour. We need to take a quick break. Right. Okay?
Perfect.
Okay.
I'm 5 minutes. Yes.
I'm Dr. Rita Louise. We're here talking to Chris Hardy about her book, DNA of the Gods, the Anunnaki creation of Eve, and the alien battle for humanity. And we'll be back with Chris after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.
You're listening to IRN, the Inception Radio Network, Chicago, Illinois.
Are you looking for a cure for boredom? Never worry. IRN's new interactive website introduces a number of ways to pass time while you listen to your favorite show. Choose anything from the IRN chat lounge, the game lounge, the video lounge, or the mood lounge. These fun, exciting features let you chat in real time with fellow listeners, view live skywatches, play daily posted online games, or pick a show based on topic. The choices are endless. Use your time wisely, keeping it all on IRN.
Who were the gods of antiquity? They've been described as the forces of nature, levels of consciousness, and aspects of our psyche. Stories that depict their incredible weapons, their flying machines, and their amazing adventures are characterized as being the product of our ancestors' fanciful imaginations. But what if the tales of the gods are true? Did the writers, chroniclers, and scribes of our distant past actually document a realistic view of our origin? My latest book, Man-Made, The Chronicles of Our Extraterrestrial Gods, looks at our most ancient legends. Learn of the torrid romances, elaborate plots, violent scandals, and conspiracies that played out in antiquity. Find out the role the gods played in the life and culture we have today. If you want to find out the truth of who we are and where we come from, order your copy of Man-Made today. For more information, go to www.manmadethechronicles.com. That's www.manmadethechronicles.com.
Hello, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Remember, you can take your Inception Radio shows on the go. Just download the Inception Radio Network app for your iPhone, iPad, or Android smartphones and access live shows, past shows, guest lineups, and much more. Just visit the iTunes Store or the Google Play Marketplace and download it today for free.
Move past the crossroads in your life and discover alternative solutions to your deepest concerns at soulhealer.com. So whether it's a physical problem, an emotional issue, a question about work, or troubles in your relationships, naturopath and medical intuitive Dr. Rita Louise can help you. Bring peace, harmony, and health back into your life. Schedule a session today. Visit soulhealer.com right away and live the life you've been dreaming of.
You didn't forget what's coming up tonight, did you? Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Never miss that interview you were looking forward to or the show on your favorite topic. Follow IRN on Twitter, I_R_N, and get reminders about the evening's live shows as well as fun and important updates throughout the week. That's I_R_N, and never miss a great show again.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
Go deep inside yourself and venture into the realm of the unconscious mind with my Meditating on the Kabbalah guided imagery audio CDs. Discover who you are and what you want in life. Meditating on the Kabbalah can help you to open, clear, and revitalize the energetic pathways of your subtle being. They will support you in your spiritual quest by helping you to access the profound insights and inner guidance you need as you work in alignment with your highest good. Let them help you to release negative thoughts and emotions and clear away any limitations that may be keeping you from experiencing your full potential. Walk down the path to health, healing, understanding, and enlightenment with meditating on the Kabbalah. Order your copy today at www.soulhealer.com. That's right, that's www.soulhealer.com.
Hello, Inception Radio Network. Would you like your favorite show to be played again live on air? Well, now the choice is in your hands with IRN's live request portal, an easy way to request your favorite show with a simple click. IRN's live request portal now gives you exclusive access to all the shows. How easy is it? Simply type a show name or a guest name, click request, even write a dedication message, and that's it. Try it now. Simply visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com, click on the live request tab under the show menu. Now playing your favorite show is just a mouse click away.
And now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for staying tuned to the second hour of the show. We're here talking to Chris Hardy about her book, DNA of the Gods. Her webpage is hardy.christine.free.fr, as in France. Just Energy Radio is brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com, where you can jumpstart your intuition today by downloading our free 50-page Jumpstart Your Intuition booklet, where you can learn how to do some energy medicine techniques and some psychic reading techniques and move forward into that whole area. Also brought to you by soulhealer.com, where you can find out about all the services I offer. So if there are things going on in your life, a problem in your relationship, a problem in your career, you have some health issues, give me a call, drop me a line, send me an email, and we can set up a time for appointment in person, by phone, or even by Skype. How cool is that? Anyway, so let's get back to Chris. So Chris.
Yes, hi, Rita.
Hi, Chris. When we talk about, because you're talking about this 300,000 years ago when they were doing this genetic modification. But how far back, like if we were to go back to when the Anunnaki first came to the planet, when Enki got here first, how far back do you think that was?
I have no opinion by myself, but if I refer myself to the work of Psyche, and he has done a tremendous work to translate the year of Anu, 3,600 years, because as I said, all the tablets show datation, like during the later datation, like during this king starting this year, and etc. And so basically, what Sitchin is saying about the date of the arrival of the Anunnaki on Earth is 450,000 years ago, but I have no. But the shift, the creation of the genetic engineering happens not 300,000 years ago, but 200,000 years ago. That's what the number I have.
Well, I'm going to ask you a totally different question, and you might not even know an answer to this, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Do you think there might have been another race that was actually here on Earth prior to, other than the hominids and the animals, but another extraterrestrial race might have been here on Earth prior to the arrival of the Anunnaki?
There is in the tablets, on particularly in what is called the creation, the tale of the creation, tablet of creation, the Enuma Elish. You have the historical rendering of a huge war that happened between when they arrive in our planetary system. And it's at the same time the planets are given names as if they were conscious beings. And at the same time, the tablets describe happenings that are so coherent with our scientific astronomical knowledge. For example, they describe that they arrive from beyond the larger planet of Neptune, and they describe the planet while they come by, and their description of the size, the color, the kind of material, if it is gaseous or whatever, rock, planet, and their description was proven correct by our first exploration of our solar system with our sonde, and it's like there was absolutely no way that you could have so precise description dating 2,000 years BCE, It's impossible unless you had people that really did what they claimed they did, which is that they had some kind of wandering planet, and suddenly they came into our solar system, crossed it, and at that point they described that they crash into a giant planet which was called Tiamat, the same name as Eve. Okay, on this giant planet, 3/4 of it exploded and created what they call the Hammer bracelet, which is our asteroid belt. And something more interesting even happened is that, so they described this hammer bracelet, and they describe it exactly in between where it is exactly now. And basically, as I said, the rocks and the part of the bits and scraps of planet start orbiting, of course, where the former huge planet was orbiting, and they create the asteroid belt. And apart with the crash, with the kind of enormous crash into this giant planet of their moons, not of their planets themselves, but of their moon. If not, they would not be there either. But a big part, like I would say something like a fifth or a sixth of this giant planet, is ejected on another orbit and nearer to the sun. And this big chunk of the original planet became our planet became Earth. So it's extremely interesting because indeed the very, very novel discovery about our own planet formation is that, in fact, and you can check this on Wikipedia, that's where I found it. In fact, it seems that our planet was created, first thing, by a giant smashing of bodies in the early solar system. And then our planet Earth was created with a crash, through a crash. You see? So that gives another kind of credit to the stories that we can find in the tablet.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah?
If you were to describe, what were the Anunnaki like? Were they much like us? Were they different from us?
Well, if you take this perspective that along the ages we had more and more Anunnaki material, genetic material in our own human genome, Earthborn human genome, then you have to believe that they look very much like us. But it is clearly said in the tablets that Enki gave to the Earthling wisdom and knowledge, but he did not give them immortality. And this is another point which is absolutely fascinating, is that it seems like, I will get back to your question, but it seems like Enki and Ninmah, all along, from the beginning, they had in mind in my opinion, that's the conclusion to which I arrive, is that they had in mind to create a civilization, a human civilization, which was going to be able to take over the civilization, the human civilization on Earth, if ever their own planet, home planet Nibiru, was going to one day have a bigger crash into another body of our solar system and would be totally destroyed. But you have to understand that Enki and Ninmah were the head scientists of both Nibiru and Earth. So they had a much more, a greater understanding of the possibility of a catastrophe in terms of the constant, every 3,600 years passage of Nibiru within our solar system. And one time, as I said, the first time they came in, they had a big crash already. And so, basically, what happened is that if it is possible that from the crash of their moon with Tiamat, that's how they started having problems with their ozone layer, that they needed some gold particles to spray into their upper atmosphere to kind of patch their ozone layer. But let's remember that we are doing exactly the same. We are not using gold, but we are using aluminium ions that we spray into the upper atmosphere since 15 years, something, in order to patch our own ozone layer hole, because it has two effects to do that. The first effect is to reflect the sun rays so that it stops the warming up of Earth. And also it's protecting Earth from in terms of the geomagnetic field is more contained. So it's very important. So so that's it. It's when you start diving into this scientific, it's only now that we can understand some terms in the tablet. They have been translated in very crazy ways, but it's only now that we can understand notions like cloning, like genetic engineering, like ozone holes in the ozone layers, things like that.
But when you read these ancient texts, and it's not just the Sumerian text, but, pretty much any ancient mythology that deals with the gods, just the gods, I mean, all of the stories are filled with scandal and violence and sex and rape and this, and they're constantly at each other, so, I mean, do you think that that's how they were?
Yes, exactly. It's they are constantly getting into rage they are Enlil is constantly trying to block his brother Enki, and the very important point for us is to realize that. That basically, if we take it, if we take this world vision for a moment, and we imagine that they really came from another planet, but unlike you, I believe that there were other extraterrestrial that came to visit Earth. Not only the Anunnaki, but this is totally veiled. This is something that interests me to the utmost, because I'm also writing science fiction, and when I write science fiction, I sometimes get information, from I guess collective unconscious. But it's like I have a feeling that there are many races, and I have seen myself alien races that have kind of they are from different films. On that, I'm sorry, I'm getting totally out of the Sumerian tablets into my own worldview. You will accept this.
I mean, you're the one being interviewed, so it's all about you, not necessarily, so it's all good.
Thank you. Perfect. Then I have all freedom. So basically, I have been myself in contact with alien beings on other worlds. That since I am 25, I made contact, and they are from the bat films, and they have fantastic, magnificent wings, but eyes that are like enormous and hexagonal. And they are not at all any of the races of aliens that we can that some witnesses have been describing. Are not the greys, are not. Okay. And I have seen others that are more human, looking like us. So that's it. It's I believe that our universe is, especially our galaxy, is teeming with life and civilization. Intelligent civilization. Already at the stage where you have science and the capacity to travel, interstellar travel.
So
I do believe that we are becoming too aware of their presence, and of course you have heard that even the Vatican has opened this possibility of alien civilizations. And so we are getting to the point. I'm sure you feel it also, that too many human beings on Earth are aware of the possibility or totally convinced of this fact. And so I believe the real contact at the civilization at the worldwide level is coming very near.
Well, one of the things that always would make me laugh, you read the stories, that come from mythology, and then the gods turn around and give us a bunch of rules. do this, don't do this, honor your father and mother, the Ten Commandments, that's all they do. And it makes me laugh because, the attitude is, do as I say, not as I do. So why do you think they set us up with these guidelines to live by?
Well, if we can go back to the story of the Garden of Eden, we have an incredible example, and it is in plain sight in the writing of the Genesis book. Because now you just have to accept, at least for a moment, that Enki is called the snake in the tablets by Enlil, the serpent, in a derogatory way, but at the same time his title of the snake was a very honorific title because it meant wisdom, as I said on all that. The same way that Richard was called Lionheart. You understand what I mean? And so basically you have Enki, the serpent, the wise initiate. And so you imagine this is Enki. And in the Genesis text, you have the snake arriving, and he, strangely, while Enlil has given a command, so you have to understand that those two kids, they had been living with Ninma and Enki in an absolutely magnificent abode that is described with incredible poetry, the place of living waters full of stones and magnificent and all this. And it's a very poetic place. And with the love of Ninma and Enki, and then they arrive in the Eden because Enlil wants to not only to see those created beings, but he wants also to ascertain his own role of commander of Earth. And now he says he is the one to have created these beings, but he was the one to give the command to be. So you could do that as a king or an emperor or whatever. But the only way he's relating to young Adam and Eve is by giving commands, and don't do this and do that. And what I found out was incredible in analyzing this text is the Genesis text itself is the fact that so Enki is arriving, the snake is arriving. In the Genesis it arrives from nowhere. One wonders why such a evil entity would be there, and how could God permit him to be there in the first place. But Enki the father arrives and he asks Eve in the Genesis, so what did the deity, the Lord, ask you? He asked you not to eat any fruit from any tree in this garden? And so basically he's asking a question to Eve, an adolescent, and prodding her to think and try to make up the answer. And Eve answered, no, he has asked us only not to eat the fruit of the tree of knowing in the middle of the garden. I'm sorry that it's not perfectly word by word, but this is the essence of the dialogue. And hello, Rita, are you there?
I'm still here.
Yes, you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay. What?
So what other kinds of... So what other kinds of...
Yes. So basically, in the dialogue between Enki and Eve, he's prodding her to think, and he's prodding his capacity to reflect. And meanwhile, Enlil, as a person, his style of interaction was only by command. I forbade, I command you to do this and that. And he put them to work in the garden also, to tend the garden. This is the word, the exact word. So basically, when Enlil is forbidding the first couple to approach or to eat the fruit of the tree of knowing, is making it's a double bind in the sense that he is pointing to this tree in the middle of the garden. And you know what is a double bind? It has been explained by Gregory Bateson, and it's the fact that when you give an order and it's only a command, you draw the attention on the object or on the action that you don't want the person to do. And so basically you are giving an order not to do that, but implied in the double bind is the fact that you are creating the link with the action or the forbidden object, and now you create an attraction to do exactly what your command was not to do. You understand? And so basically, when the deity of the Garden of Eden commands to the first couple not to eat only of the tree of knowing, the fruits of the tree of knowing good and evil, then he's making a double bind and is going to push them to eat, especially this fruit from the tree of knowing good and bad. And this is one thing that is very interesting, because at absolutely no point, given that there was another tree which was even worse, the tree of immortality, that would give, if eaten, the immortality to the young humanity, the tree has never been pointed out and forbidden by the deity, and at no point there is any problem with this tree, because it has not been part of the command to avoid to eat the fruit of this tree. You understand?
Uh-huh.
You see my point?
I think so.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have
incredible.
A question from the chat room.
So it's absolute double bind, proven by the fact that the tree of immortality, which was next to the other one, has never been a problem. Hello?
Okay, so can I ask the question from the chat room now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is from Neutron, and it says, please ask her if Horus Raw was assigned to the Tree of Knowledge by the Anunnaki.
Sorry, say that again.
Was Horus Raw assigned to the Tree of Knowledge by the Anunnaki?
Well,
so the Egyptian god Horus Raw, and then the Tree of Knowledge. Was there a connection between the two of them?
I don't know. I must say I'm not sure about that.
Okay. You know, one of the things that you talk about in your book was that it sounded like there was contact with the Anunnaki and humanity until like 5,000 years ago. You know, so is that why we hear stories of like, you know, and I'm just going to go into a totally different religious thing, you know, like Moses, you know, where he interfaces with, you know, God on the top of the mountain. Is that why we hear these miscellaneous, you know, stories that come out of antiquity, you know, but more recent antiquity, of individuals, of humans having miscellaneous interactions with the gods because they were still here 2,500, 3,000 years ago? Yeah,
well, this is a very, very interesting point. The question is double. What happened to the Anunnaki gods? And second, who were their last apparitions to humans? And but we have to talk about something, a catastrophe that happened, and that changed, two catastrophes that happened. The first catastrophe was the deluge, and that was at the time of Noah, so that's a very, very long time ago, before Abraham. And then there is a second catastrophe that is happening at the time of Abraham. And in the Sumerian tablet, and it is what we have in the scripture as destruction of the erasing of Sodom and Gomorrah and a few cities of the plain with the war of the kings, you know. And in the Sumerian tablets, the story, of course, is different. First of all, according to Psyche, Abraham's father was a high priest in Nippur. Nippur is a sacred city of Enlil, governor of Earth, okay? And so the high priest at this time, because the Anunnaki god and goddesses of each town, each city is a couple, you know, of each city, little family, they had given, they said they had lowered the kingship to Earth, meaning that they had established lines of kings that were now going to be the ruler of Earth, and they were going to be only the gods that are venerated in the temple, each one in each her own or his own temple. And this is much after the lowering of kingship by Ninmah in her town Shurfak, where you had the 10 rulers from Adam to Noah. Okay, we are a long, long time afterwards. And so the high priest still of all temples and the high priestess were always at that time hybrids, with one parent being Anunnaki and one parent being Earthling, or already a mixing of hybrid of both. So basically they were keeping the lines of Anunnaki intermarriage with Earthling as being the priest lines and the king's lines, and in many occasions they were both high priest and king at the same time. Okay, and so Abraham is born from the high priest of Nippur, which means that he has a part of his genome, which is an enormous proportion of his genome is Anunnaki, because he is a hybrid already.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically he is asked by God. There is something which is absolutely certain, is that the God of the Garden of Eden is Enlil. This is, the texts are too similar, the events are too similar, the symbolism, everything. You can find easily. It's too comparable, and so this is absolutely certain. Now, is the God of Abraham Enlil? This is another question, and I am not sure of that. But anyway, as you know, Abraham is asked by God to, the father is asked to move first to Ur and then down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, not too far. And he's establishing his camp there, and then there is a war of the kings. And at one point, it seems like Abraham was still able to see three, and this is interesting because in the scripture text you have three men appear in front at the entrance of the tent of Abraham. He was called Abraham at the time. Three men appear in front of his tent at the entrance. And what is interesting compared to answer your earlier question is that Abraham knows immediately that those three men, one of which is the Lord himself, they are gods. They are not. One is God himself, and the other two are angels, messenger. And they are the ones that are going to go and destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. But so Abraham was able to see immediately. So I don't know how the Anunnaki were differing from the human being. One thing is certain, is that they were bigger, higher. They were giants compared to us. So that's one thing. Now there is the problem of the horns. That was very strange that you have them, and all Anunnaki royals have the horns, and it's not absolutely sure that it was only a headdress. It's a little strange. So anyway, they had some specific traits, and so Abraham then offered to these three men. And at the time, God is not recognized as such in the three men. So he's offering the three men to stop at his tent, and that his wife is going to prepare a meal. And not only they stop and they eat together, and then the three men will rest, which is very highly interesting, because they are going to go to Sodom only at dusk, and there will be the problem with the people of Sodom. It's a whole other story with the nephew of Abraham, Lot. But basically, they were still interacting. Abraham was the last one, it seems, to be totally interacting with the Anunnaki on a human basis, with people eating and resting, and then going to destroy a city. While Moses, the problem of Moses is that he does not really interact with God indirectly. The deity does not want him to look at him only when he has passed. Abraham is said to have an enormous skin problem when he comes down from the Sinai. He seems to be burnt, or he has it's like he has been irradiated, and so there is no interaction. At the time of Moses, the deity has already become very, very remote from the humans. And the last time in the Sumerian tablet, the last interaction was the appearance of with a high priestess of I don't remember the town, near Babylon, and maybe in Babylon and near Babylon. She was trying to pray to Nannar, another god of the royal family, and she saw him descending on a chariot, on a flying chariot, and she was able to interact, and he was participating on to the ritual she did for him, and it was his last appearance to human eye. And also Marduk was the last one to appear in Babylon when he was the one to go and fetch the Persian king Cyrus and introduce him in the town of Babylon and give him the kingship of Babylon. And they were the last, as far as I know, they were the last three direct interaction with the Anunnaki gods. But what happened with Sumer? You hear me well?
Yeah.
Rita, you hear me?
Yeah. So I have another question for you.
Okay, please go on.
And we have 10 minutes left, okay? So we need to keep
Yes, I know.
Okay. And so this is from Cocopelli, 16 MB. And the question is, are there different races of alien gods for each race of humans on Earth, or just one alien god for all? Do you need me to say that again?
Yes.
Are there different races of alien gods for each race of humans on Earth, or just one alien god or one alien race for all?
I believe that we have been thinking too much in terms of only one divinity. And it's very difficult. It's going to be a little difficult for us to understand that, as I said, the universe is teeming with life on the highly intelligent civilizations that are thousands or whatever years ahead of us in terms of their science. Of course, there are also other ones that are at the primitive age. However, the problem is the fact that we, of course, in the recent interpretation of biblical studies, you have the understanding that there is some kind of a force that is a unique force, and that is, one would say, the ideal divinity, the ideal God of the universe. But in other civilizations, it has not been personalized. Of course, there is a shift from the Bible and the interaction of Abraham, who offered food to the deity, to the Lord. There is an immense shift toward more and more idealization of God as an entity that is now absolutely omnipotent, omniscient, knowing everything, able of everything, having all qualities, an aggregation, what I call an aggregation of positive quality into one entity. The only problem is that this entity is a little too much personalized, even if some religion have made a point to never give a face or never reproduce the image or imagine an image for this deity. But basically, when you have the Eastern civilization, you have a principle, not a principle that is active consciousness, certainly dynamical and alive and the knowledgeable consciousness, but is not exactly an entity. And then you have myriads, billions of entities, conscious entities everywhere in the universe and in our own galaxy. We have I believe a lot of worlds that are extremely civilized. I do believe that the greatest probability is the existence of some kind of galactic federation. As far as our galaxy is concerned, and in my science fiction, what I could see is that in fact it's a big galaxy. It's one galaxy slightly merging with the age of another galaxy. But in terms of our local universe, here, we have two galaxies, and it's true that I discovered since that Andromeda galaxy is slowly getting into ours. The Milky Way galaxy, ours. And at one point, we will totally merge. Both galaxies are going to be totally put to pieces, and will merge into one galaxy. So we have to shift totally our worldview toward a universe teeming with life, teeming with. If you understand how particles were created at the wall of Planck, and then the particles started forming, and then suns and the solar systems and all this. Then you have to realize that, and that was happening like 4 billion years ago. So we have world solar systems that have been formed. And by the way, we know now that we have been formed as a solar system much earlier than we thought. And so you have to let it open, to let the door open to the possibility that you have civilization and solar systems that are much older than us. 1 million years older, and civilizations that are so much ahead of us that for them, shifting from one galaxy to the other one through a wormhole or portal is absolutely no problem, It's beyond time and space. We go in interdimensional, on their mind, we have to understand that their consciousness could be also dwelling in these interdimensional realities. And that's something we have to open to consciousness everywhere in the cosmos, but not specifically in the specific dogma or rules that we have put we have inherited on Earth.
So do you think that the Anunnaki are still here? Or do you think the Anunnaki are still here? If you think about it, they have been on this planet, using your dating, 450,000 years, their last connection or interaction with humanity was, maybe 5,000 years ago, which in the other expanse of time is just kind of a blink in the eye. Do you think that the Anunnaki are still here and present on the Earth or in this solar system?
My own impression is that only one or two of them are still here, and because there is this catastrophe that happened, because what happened with Sodom and Gomorrah is that they were trying to kill Marduk and his followers because they were not following Enlil exactly. And it seems like they use something very akin to nuclear power, and they destroyed first their spaceport, new spaceport, which was after the deluge, which was on Sinai mountain. So they first destroyed this, and then 5 cities of the Palestinian Israeli plains, actual. And it seems like they use, in the tablet they say they went to an earth and then they use 7 awesome weapons. And what happened is that next to that you have they had, it seems like they had not used, and they did not, the younger generation did not know anything about this the power of this energy they were using, and they had no idea about contaminated clouds and winds. And what happened is that the winds went directly towards Sumer from Palestine and totally killed all life, plant life, and animal life, and human life in the whole of Mesopotamia. Apart from two strongholds, and that's very, very strange. One was Babylon, the city of Marduk, which was the one they were trying to erase in the first place. And of course, the Anunnaki had time. They did not exactly have time. Some of them did not know what to do, and they stayed, and they became contaminated and very sick, and then they died. Some of them, like Inanna, they took their planes and they tried to move out from this what they call evil wind, and you have hundreds of what they call laments, the laments of each city, you know, and the god and goddesses that were there. They were the one writing, and they say, you know, the dead were in piles, animals, there was absolute silence, the water was poison, people were dying like flies. It was the lament.
Dying everywhere. But Chris, our
so
time is up. We need to wrap up.
The last 3 words are that through this evil wind, the nuclear contaminated radiation cloud, basically most of them became very sick. Some died, and I imagine they did not last very long after that. That's what I believe happened.
Okay. So, Chris, if somebody wants to get a copy of your book, DNA of the Gods, the Anunnaki creation of Eve and the alien battle for humanity, where can they get it?
Yes, okay. One thing I want to give is the name of my blog. And through my blog, if they look toward DNA of the Gods, they are going to get a few possibilities to buy the book through different internet site.
Okay, but so the music is starting to roll, so we need to go.
Okay. My blog is Chris, CHRIS, and everything is with dash, small dash, so Chris dash H, big H dash Hardy, HARDY dash, and then DNA dash of dash the dash gods or plural. That's it. So that's my website, my blog. Chris dash H dash Hardy dash DNA dash of dash the dash gods. And on this blog, they are going to find everything they need to buy the book and about the book.
Thank you. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing what you know with the listeners. I think they all had a good time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rita. It was very interesting. And thank you to everybody.
Okay. You have a great night. That's Chris.
Yeah, you
Her
too.
Her book is DNA of the Gods. Her webpage is party.christine.free.fr or Chris - it's too long for me to say. Next week we have Marshall Barnes, Time Machines and Time Travels, and Jordan Hoffer, The Evolution of the Little Gray Men. So until next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio. Be blessed.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio